Reframing Mindset podcast, where I clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity, practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, welcome back to the Frame Mindset podcast. My name is Concept, and this episode we're talking about so quality versus quantity. Again, in a 40 year ownership and stuff like that. So, you doing some cooking and stuff like that. What I actually realized was like, the semantics of the kitchen utensils and stuff like that. That is actually the difference. No, it are actually knowing the utensils and using them correctly is actually the difference between quality versus good kitchen practice versus bad kitchen practice. And what I mean like so things like usually have a kitchen we call it can cutter and stuff like that. Like, learning how to actually use it correctly and less relying on the use of, of a knife and all these stuff. Those are stuff that you can use to actually upgrade now upgrading the the time for the upgrading in their home and stuff like that. Like legit understand the use of a knife, of a can cutter and all those stuff. Probably using those stuff correctly can just be the difference between having good kitchen good kitchen. So what happens? So what basically happens is that on your journey and stuff like that, out of college and stuff like that, you will be able to actually buy some simple stuff like simple utensils. I talk about plastic fork and all this stuff, or wood fork or stuff like that. You'll be able to buy some any basic stuff, and you may have stuff from basically like from university days or your days in the university and stuff like that. But the difference is that I say you're coming from a time where where you were out there so doing you were used to a certain way, like you used to like okay, I used to use knife or used to use knife for all these stuff for certain purposes or stuff like that. But then you have things like the future is here. The future is here where you be like, okay, you can use a knife cutter now or can cutter, a can cutter I should say, to actually do these stuff. But sometimes not able to actually so what is happening is that sometimes not able to actually purchase those. But that's the thing where we like that's the semantic. What that's what we're going to actually going to separate the fourth tier of home ownership going to the fifth year of all those stuff. So all those fancy names of fancy product and stuff like that. Like actually so knowing the past, like for example also blenders. You have blenders and now you have future things like future mix and stuff like that. Things to make drinks, Nutrimix and stuff like that. Like legit the difference between going forward and what is that in the room in your home there are things that you bought subconsciously to be like or bought subconsciously to be like okay these are stuff that I actually see growing up so it makes sense to actually buy it. Now you're going to actually go out and actively buy the best thing now. No, first you can actually learn. You have to actually learn what they are, like, okay, yeah, this is what it's used for and all this stuff. So that's the thing, we actually go to and see people they say fancy knife and fork and all this stuff. Sometimes you actually have to um and what happens that you're growing up in a family they come in and say, oh use this and use this. Sometimes what happens is that you have to actually take your time to actively say, okay, yeah, this is a fork used for this and all this stuff. Yeah, this is a thing like that. And sometimes you have to actually take your time to actually go out and actively use those stuff correctly. And then it becomes natural. Then it becomes natural where it be like, okay, yeah, these things weren't taught to you these things you actually learn yourself, and it's like now it becomes a part of you. Now it becomes okay, yeah. You know how to correctly use the knife cutter. You don't have to rely on the when you up there, you know how to use the knife to actually come in and cut a can and stuff like that. But you pass the stage of saying, okay, yeah, I'm gonna use the knife to cut a can. I'm just gonna use a knife cutter now, like or a can cutter, I should say. A can cutter, I should say, like you know, those are, and even the slip up that I hear me in the podcast, I saying something like can cutter. Those are the things that you use after a break out of the cycle where be like, yo, at some point you even hear me saying something like knife again, like a knife to cut a can and stuff like that. You see me saying can cutter and all these stuff. Those are the stuff you use after I say, yeah, you're rising out of the place. You're actually becoming home minded. Home minded. And what happens that these stuff happen is that each of these stuff you have to actually reinforce at each level. Each level. So what happens is that certain stuff you do, uh, you out there so you do fancy. You out there so go and be like, okay, yeah. Because guests are coming or people are coming and stuff like that. They're gonna be your Sunday best or all these stuff. Then what happens that the difference now is that you naturally out there so exuding the high. You're naturally out there so exuding the high. You're not faking the high. I think people out there what happens that when they actually see your low, when you become your high, it's like and you naturally understand your high. You out there so you don't have to out there to be out there to be like, oh, and that's the thing about actually the thing will be like, okay, showing the lows, showing the lows to say, yeah. Back in the days, yeah, we usually use knife to actually go out and cut cans and stuff like that. I mean, we would have say something like, oh, back in the days, I usually use machine to cut, machine to cut, coke, that's something like, no, actually buy all these stuff. We go to actually acknowledge those past stuff to say, yeah, we actually used to do those stuff to say, yeah. So when we actually go in and be like, yeah, when we actually upgrade on those stuff now, they would even don't even say it again. Like you don't mess up with saying like you don't say can't knife cutter, I say can cutter and stuff like that. These are stuff that is right. Take your time. And what happens that you don't rush these stuff. You take your time and actually understand these stuff. You have to say, okay, how to properly use a can opener. Because I have a lot, cause I have a lot of cans in the home. So after I learn how to use a can cutter, could actually be the difference. Oh, okay. I use blender so much so often. There's a better thing than blender now. A more convenient thing than blender and all these stuff. So like the kitchen utensils and stuff like that. Learning them, learning quality versus not quality and all these stuff. Like really going out and learning the quality versus quantity and all these stuff. This is the thing in the fourth year where we're like, okay, yeah, you're out there so actually doing home stuff. You're out there so buying these things were actually coming out and you subconsciously know them, but no, you have to actually do them. Like, okay, yo, you have to try out and be like, oh, and what happens is that that's the thing where be like, oh, these things are obvious. And that's the thing where be like, sometimes you you have to run up to your own pace. Where be like, oh, certain things like this about their birthday. Oh, these things are obvious to some people, but yo, we actually have to go out and learn from scratch and be like, okay, yeah, we have to try not, you know, um, practice becomes habit. Practice becomes habit. So okay, learn that okay. Learn how to properly use a can opener. I will now actually appreciate what is a can opener now. So I was out there so using but there's a cooking and all these stuff and I was out there casually using the can opener and all these stuff. But now actually going out and appreciate learning how to properly use it and actually coming and stuff like that. It actually made me appreciate these kitchen utensils and stuff like that. So that when I actually going out and buying these stuff, I buy the quality. I buy the quality. There's a going out and buy these stuff, buy the quality and all. And what also is that also getting find knowing when to actually get rid of the old utensils. So when actually knowing to go to get rid of the old utensils, when you go out and buy the new utensils and stuff like that, new kitchen utensils and stuff like that, you buy them in quality. Yo, those are stuff that actually coming out and be like, oh, these things last long. So that's it. That's the trick to that actually being the homeowner and stuff like that. Um, versus like living in a home or renting or stuff like that. When you're actually going out and you're out there, so throwing away old utensils and stuff like that. You know when it's old and you know what you're out there so buying. You know that okay, when you're actually going out and buying new utensils, you're out there so buying quality. You're out there so buying quality utensils. It's like okay, yeah. And what happens is that once you buy the quality utensil, there's a better way. There's a better way. So it's like, okay, now you so buy for example, you hear me talking about a can opener and stuff like that. And you see me appreciate using a can opener and then I boom and buy a better one. All of a sudden, boom, I found a better thing. I found a better product. It put me into another tax bracket or stuff like that or where I go and people yo, yes, are using can openers, bro. Yo, they have this and that and all these stuff and all these stuff. But what happens is that I would not have reached that level if I didn't go out and be like, okay, I'm gonna actively go out and throw away this so I could actually go out and do this stuff. So what happens is that you out there so by you investing in yourself, getting rid of the old, appreciating the present, appreciating the fact that okay, we usually use knife and all these stuff, and then understanding, appreciating what can cutter does, and all these stuff. I know that okay. Same thing with the I'm always and this experience coming like I said, I'm in the fourth year, I'm in the third year of home ownership, what I realize is that everything about shelf life, like the home is was built wasn't built to last. It was built. So you have to actually come in and be like, okay, now we actually have to put in stuff to make it built to last. Built to last. That's the difference between stuff like that. It was built. So it was like built out of necessity. Now we actually try to build it to last. And these are simple stuff that they actually say. Out with the old, in with the new. We'll be like, okay, appreciating that, okay, what a silver fork is or what a plastic fork is and all these stuff. Knowing when to use it and when to use all these stuff. And then actually going out and say, when I go out and buy these stuff now, I buy them in I buy quality. I buy the best quality or stuff like that. The best quality I can. I know that okay, I'm gonna go here and actually buy these stuff in quality and all this. And that simply just change how I and what happens is that once you buy the thing in the best quality, you actually go out and you actually get yourself in a different level where you see different people is living a better lifestyle than the one you reach and be like, okay, no, you'll be like, okay, no, you can do the fancy talking and all this stuff, do the fancy stuff, and be like, oh my god, how this home is so fancy and all this stuff. What happens that you appreciate the level that what happens that in the project you appreciate the level that you're at, and then you out there so because you're just investing in better stuff and you don't rush and invest in the better stuff. You actually just take your time. It's like, okay, now you're out there so reaching a new level of saying, okay, yeah, we can go out and when I repurchase, uh, instead of buying knives, and I'm out there so going out and buying a lot of canned goods and stuff like that, I'm gonna buy a can cutter, and be like, okay, yeah, with the can cutter now, I ain't, I'm gonna use the knife what the knife is supposed to be used for and stuff like that. Until boom, you hear me saying using a knife anymore. It's like stuff like that. But that's the thing about this here home ownership. I'll be like, okay, these things are obvious in the simple. You'll be like, oh yeah, it's simple, do this stuff, but what happens that you can actually relax. You can actually you out there so in a you compound your journey, you compound you're on a momentum. And that's the thing. The trick is to not lose the momentum. Right? It's you're on a momentum, and it's tricky is to not to lose the momentum. Right? It's like you have to actually, and that thing about frame of perspective, like you need to actually get something to jack you to say, yeah, we are here, we are, we are here. So, um, there's a having people in whatever way I said, these stuff you're out there's a breaking out of a cycle, there's a breaking out of poverty, there's a everything, there's a better pride and all this, there's a coming out and there's a have to break out of. You have to be at the low to actually break out and be like, you have to actually use this stuff to break out of where you're at. And you'll be like, you're coming out and be like, why the hell you out there doing that, embarrassing yourself and stuff like that. You need these lows. You have to actually reach these lows to get the high. You have to actually reach these lows to actually get the high. You have to actually learn those lessons. So things like appreciating kitchen utensils. I then over time we go on home bathroom utensils and them. But this episode about kitchen utensils, be like, okay, under in the fourth year, just understanding the difference between what and the convenience of what a knife versus a can cut and all these stuff. That's the thing, some people subconsciously know that. This episode is for people to reinforce those stuff. When you actually reinforce those stuff, then you out there stuff can use that to build up economy and stuff like that. Like the fans know that. The fans know that okay, yeah, the can cutter is the better thing than the knife. The fans know that now. It's just that maybe at the time you can't afford to actually buy it. But you know you have this episode say yeah, the can cutter is better. It does that we can't reach it. But when we reach it, we know that yeah, we out there to get the can cutter and stuff like that. But appreciating the fact that okay, yeah, the knife is a convenient way of opening a can as well and stuff like that. So that's the thing where we like this is a new level of where we like okay, you're on this level of the fourth year home ownership or stuff like that is appreciating the utensils um or the stuff that you use to cook to prepare your meal. Appreciating those stuff and those understanding those stuff and then buying the better quality things to actually prepare it better and all these stuff and are getting the better stuff to actually prepare it better and all these stuff. And what happens is that you subconsciously making better products, you're subconsciously making better quality food, you're subconsciously making better quality everything like juice, there's a drinking better quality juice, there's a drinking and you're making them the better quality things quicker. There's a making the better quality things quicker. And what happens is that these stuff happens subconsciously. There's a subconsciously there's a doing these stuff. There's a be like okay. Yeah, because what happens is that you the first thing the first level is appreciating the level that you're at. Where we're like, okay, you have to appreciate the fact that we're in the fourth. This is what comes with the fourth year. This is all the tools that I have in the fourth year of ownership or whatever. These are the tools and everything that we have. We know and that thing. Like, this is where like comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare yourself to say, oh, this is what you have. No, you're saying, this is what we have in the fourth year. And that's the reason why this episode we talk about. I talk about retirement and stuff like that. Like, you have to actually stop getting lost in the sauce because I was out this. We out this and a momentum, but sometimes I like to stop and be like, we hurricane came and stuff like that. The fourth year, we have to actually be like, the fourth year of the home ownership is really complex. Like, it's not easy. It's not, and you walk over and be like, this will be like, you have to actually sit down and be like, appreciate the utensils and everything. every single thing in the home, the key, every single, like every single, you're a homeowner now, bro. You ain't a that thing, no, bro. With this, yes, so you're not the employer, you're employer and all these stuff. There's going out making money, but you're a homeowner now. There's a push, there's a push key that your door and all these stuff. There's a pushing key into your door and all these stuff. So everything in the home now, you have to know it. Like if somebody walking, you can say, okay, this is this and this is that and all these stuff. And sometimes what happens that sometimes you subconscious because you're out there so at a level like boom. Say you were renting or say you were living in somebody else home and stuff like that. You treat these things or you are dormant and stuff like that. You treat these things not casual. You be like, okay, you subconsciously know that okay, that knife cutter is better and stuff like that and all these stuff. What happens in a homeowner years and stuff like that, you the difference is you actually appreciating quality stuff now. Yo, there's a buying quality stuff now. Yo, there's a going out and people like, yo, you're going out and you're doing actual I talk about information shopping and window shopping. You're always sitting down and be like, okay, yeah. We always are trying to get a better um you appreciate the days when you let's say usually use knife and all these stuff and use machete and stuff. But it's like we're going past that now. You know, it's like you're making the money not after you're going past that. We're going past those things. And the reason why I say that because in the sport you read everything like that, start this stuff. 'Cause even this computer monitor and stuff like that that I have, it's actually reaching its limit and stuff with everything like that. In this because I started this podcast for a while, I actually realized this stuff. But actually realizing that the episode about storage and transferring storage and all these stuff. This is the level that you're at with everything. We'll be like, okay, we have to actually stop and actually appreciate every single tool that we have and know what the hell they are. So that when we actually start go out and replace all these stuff, replacing quality stuff, when we get rid of them now, when we get rid of the old stuff now, we know that these stuff were the old, or these stuff were the old stuff. These stuff were there for a reason. These are I actually bought these stuff for a reason, and we always getting rid of we appreciate the old days. You know, we like the old days, and be like, the old days were those were the days, and our what happens that what happened is that those days, those things were out of reach. Those things were out of reach back in the days. So we're not neglecting the fact like yo, days and say those things weren't quality purchases. Those things were quality purchases at the time. Things were smart purchases at the time. You're just going out and say, okay, yeah, but everything now has a shelf life. You're just going out now and say, okay, when I go out and buy something now, we're going to buy the better thing now in a better quality stuff to get a longer shelf life. So we didn't change or anything like that. We still have the same mindset of saying, okay, we're gonna go out and buy this stuff to make our kitchen nice and stuff like that. It's just that with this new knowledge now, we're saying that okay, everything have a shelf life, and this is the way of coming out of poverty and stuff like that. Knowing that everything have a shelf life, and the ability the next level of knowing that okay everything of a shelf life is knowing okay what is when knowing what the tools are what so that knowing what is everything the youth in kitchen use for to say okay when we know that okay, this is used to this. So when you go in and say, okay, this is old. This is old. We all yes are getting rid of this now. This is old. And why this is important because in the kitchen, say I'm talking now, I'm somewhat a science and stuff like that. This is important in like the food industry and all science and all these stuff like legit. You can't be out there so going out and be like, okay. using all products. Be like and all these stuff, and you be like, oh, stuff like that. What happens is that a good doctor could know to use those old product like lady if you're out there say, in the desert, if you're out there say, in the desert and have nothing at all, a old product is better than no product to use. Like you have out there in the desert, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you're out there so because you know to use the old product, you're going to be out there so just relying on the old product forever and stuff like that. It's good to know that okay, this is what this product is used for and stuff like that. So if it needs be if it needs be, this is what we're going to use. But at the same time, we got here to invest in the future and trickle down economic and stuff like that. We have the knowledge so that a doctor coming up, and that's the thing about history. We talk about history and stuff like that. Well, our company history and stuff like that. You can actually go back and say, yo, this is what we actually. This is there's better solution than this. But you have to appreciate these days when we did have this so that when we go to the future, this is why we're in the future. We have to actually rationalize why like if why we're living longer now, like all these stuff. These are stuff where we're like, okay, but there's a rationalizing why we always living longer now. And it's like, okay, yeah. Yeah, back in the days, this was what we were using and stuff like that. We didn't change. We're still using the same thing. The same thing. It's just that now we know that okay, we know when it's gonna get old. That's basically the difference. What happened in some talking about the kitchen and stuff. The only difference is that okay, we know when it actually gets old, and we know that okay, yeah, we just get rid of this and buy a new one or stuff like that. Or oh, let me wash this now. Let me wash, or knowing how to properly wash it. All these stuff, semantics, all these stuff, semantics, and what happens is that you're doing this stuff for every single utensil until it becomes muscle memory. These are stuff that separates the fourth year to fifth year. That's like in every single basic utensil, and you're naturally out there to knowing what it's used for, so that and knowing when it gets old. That's the difference. Knowing what things like dishwashing rag, the kitchen rag and stuff like that. Knowing when that gets old, knowing when to throw away that and all these stuff. This is the difference now between fourth year and the fifth year and all these stuff. When people come into your kitchen and stuff like that, be like, yo, we're in the future now, bro. It's like, yo, you see a master chef and all these stuff. Like knowing that okay, yeah, when you see me out here, so and that's thing why. Because what happens that I'm coming from a country where you're coming out and coming from where the past is relevant. When I actually come in and be like, okay, yeah, we're going to throw away the past, bro. You have to be able to rationalize why the hell we out there to throwing that. Like, yo, and be like, when we out there to say we're going full straight, knife cutter, we ain't using no knife anymore and all these stuff. We're just using knife cutter. You see me out there to going knife cutter, rice cooker, and all these stuff. Yeah, people that back in my days, I usually use the cold pot and all these stuff. Like, no, you have to, yeah, you have to be like, okay, if it comes down to it, we have to be able to actually use a cold pot. You never know it, but knowing that, yo, when we actually use the cold pot and stuff like that, we be like, okay, now you know why we all there to skip the cold pot, skip the gas pot and all these stuff, skip the electric stove, and now we all there so in the rice cooker and all these stuff, air fryer, all these food ways and stuff like that. Those are the things where we like, okay, we out there so being fancy in the kitchen, like legit. These are the stuff that differentiate the fourth year into fifth year. Be like, okay, yeah, we out there so being fancy in the kitchen. Why we not? And why is that? Um, why is that we out there so being fancy in the kitchen? Is that it's not the fact that we out there so neglect. We're supposed to be able to say if we have a gas stove or stuff like that, we're supposed to be able to cook and all these stuff the same way. But knowing that. when we actually fully upgrade. So, and that's thing, why I say the 40 app and about kitchen as, because this stuff is actually hard. It's hard to actually upgrade a kitchen you utensils. You can't be out there so using coal pots for like 50 years and then all of a sudden become a gas expert. Gas stove expert. It can be out there so come in and be like, oh, this are using gas stove for like 50 years, and then all of a sudden you become a winning expert or stuff like that. That's the thing about the home ownership versus being a renter or a person living a personal home or stuff like that. You're a homeowner now. You are actually responsible for changing these stuff. You are actually out there responsible for changing these stuff. And some of the stuff that you can't change that quickly. What you can actually do is know when they get old and say, okay, we all is going to start actually try to replace these stuff. That's the thing that differentiates, be like, okay, we can't go out there and be like, yo, we're gonna go out there and we have to actually be like, oh, the first thing is to know when these stuff get old. And when we know when these stuff get old and what is the better alternative and appreciating the better like oh so the important thing is basically saying like yo using the right utensils. So like yo there's a reason why people like I'm growing up you always hear in a fancy day going out to fancy dinner and stuff like that they use knife and fork and stuff like that. There's a reason why that is relevant. Going to universities and stuff like that. There's a reason why that using knife and fork is relevant and why someone like me out there is not caring and just using fork is 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 where called if I went go to a upper echelon place or stuff like that, it's wrong. It's wrong. Like it's be frowned upon and subconsciously be frowned upon. What not actively be frowned upon, subconsciously be frowned upon. If you go to a very high echelon place now, you'll be out there to be actively be frowned upon. Be like, okay, yeah, this is a low class person. but there's a reason why they rationalize being that is the top. There's a reason why that is the better option. But the first step into upgrading and reaching this level, recognizing like it's acknowledging that is the better way. And when you actually acknowledge the better way, then like, oh, now we're gonna be like, we're gonna actively going out and keep this better way. And sometimes, as laziness and stuff like that. And sometimes it's not even laziness. It's sometimes you out there have to sit down. These stuff ain't easy enough. Being at the top ain't easy enough. That's the thing. Being at the top ain't easy. You have to actually going out and actively do these stuff. And coming out and catch you slipping. They coming out and catch you slipping. And it's like, oh my god, bro. This is slipping at the top, bro. And it's like, yeah, that's the thing about being at the top, bro. They look and they catch you slipping. So that's the thing about the 40 of home, the 40 of home ownership. And talk about the kitchen. I'm going to separate these things into different places. The kitchen, knowing the kitchen utensils and all these stuff, knowing when it gets old and know the right thing to use for the right ingredient. So when I go and buy some canned goods and all those stuff and opening the canned goods, I know that I'm gonna out there to go and buy a can. I'm gonna use a can opener to open the can. I'm gonna use the can opener to go open the can. I ain't gonna use a knife or stuff like that. The knife is an emergency case scenario. But what happens is that those emergency case scenario should become so less frequent that it becomes non-existent. It should be like, our whole generation should even know that we used to use knife. Because what happens is that we put in the effort to use they can open up correctly that our whole generation even didn't know so we use knife for a can cutting and stuff like that. But what happens is that for me, what happens is that I have to actually go out now and learn how to use a can opener effectively. Learn how to maintain it. That's the next thing. Sometimes maintain it. 'Cause, the can opener is very old now. It actually got very old now. So what happens now is that it's actually getting the can opener. Getting the can opener work. That's the first part. Knowing how to use the can opener, working and something like that. But maybe they are stuff just like how we have a knife. We have a knife. You have things like knife, sharpener and stuff like that. Knowing when a knife get dull, knowing when to sharpen it and all these stuff, knowing those stuff can actually make you a very efficient knife user. But the same thing with that can opener, knowing when it's not at its ideal use and how to actually get used, make it useful at its ideal use now. Those are the stuff now. They'll be like, okay, I can get the maximum use of a knife and a can cutter. So that when you see me out there so throwing away a knife and throwing away a can cutter, you'll be like, okay, I can know that yo, this is the end of it, bro. This is the end of it. You'll be like, yeah. When I see you out there so throwing that, these are the end of it. And what happens is that because what this is the speed and when all this are getting richer and stuff like that. We don't is throwing out these stuff. You know, it's a throwing away a part of you, It's like literally a knife, bro. You out there throwing away a silver knife. You out there throwing away a knife, bro. It's like wow. Next thing you know, you say, "Oh my God, I'm out there throwing away uh, all these stuff." So what happens that you don't? What happens that these things are subtle. You don't start out there doing those stuff. This is taking your time, just doing those stuff, and be like, all of a sudden you out there making these big moves and all these. And these big moves become subconscious. It's become so subconscious for you to say, yo, I'm just gonna go out and just replace all these stuff really quick. And it's like, oh wow, that's I was like, why is that? Because you, you take all these other lessons that I actually talk about come you and when you actually take your time to apply it. No, when you actually throw away the goods and put it back and then get the new goods and stuff like that, you're out there so naturally out there so applying the stuff that you were taught or stuff like that. You're naturally applying the stuff. And what happens is that when you actually apply it, the new stuff that you actually buy lasts longer because what happens now is that you actually say when I actually go out and buy the cutter, and that's the thing about the podcast, we talk about speaking in, I use to reframe practice my speech and stuff like that. When you're out there to see me speak fluent English and all these stuff, not stuttering and all these things and all these stuff, and all these things, you're gonna be like, yeah, it's like you're gonna have the podcast and say, yeah, that's like 10 years 10 years, all these stuff. I just randomly speaking about random stuff. You hear when you see me out there so twanging and be like, oh my god, bro, you peasants, bro, still speaking Jamaican paddles, bro. Like, you out there to speak. Now, these are 10 years of me out there so refining how to speak and all these stuff, taking every criticism and all these stuff, all these things, when you out there to see me coming out and be like, yo, hello, my name is this and that, and you see me out there speaking that fluent English, it's like the podcast is gonna show you that, yo, bro, it's years. It took me years to actually come out and be like, yo, this is all. This is actual English and all this stuff. It take me years of saying, okay, yes, I'm gonna, okay, yes, back to it. Yes, I want this gonna throw away all the paddles. No, bro. It's gonna be, I'm gonna be like this Jamaican that come back to Jamaica for 24 years and be like, oh my god, look at the money, bro. This is so garbage. This is Jamaican money now. This is Jamaican's money now. This is trash. Actually saw that on Instagram. Like, oh my god, this look like a piece of trash, bro. Yeah, we're gonna be like those people, bro. I come in for 24 years and be like, oh. But the only difference is now when they actually come and they see some stuff and be like, oh my god, bro. Back in the days, these things would actually back in the days, would be these things are trash. Uh, but you know, we actually have to learn what those trash are. So that when you actually buy the good product, you'll be like, yeah, this is the reason why we ain't using those stuff anymore. Like, you know, but that's the thing about the home ownership now. It'll be like, yo, the kitchen utensils. So this episode was basically about knife cutter versus knife, but it can be extended to various other products as well, like blender and this stuff. So I guess I want all this going out and actually going out and speak about everything and stuff like that. Maybe. But I guess this is the basic maybe like you know in the kitchen utensils and stuff like that. When I start upgrading now, I start always say, okay, I want to throw out the knife and the throwing away the stove and same thing when I talk about AC versus fan, all these stuff, bro. Like these stuff are not is what happens is that it's not you out there so getting fancy and going out and say all of a sudden I'm gonna invest and buy AC. It's you know in the days when you out there so buying using the fan or out there so using a hand fan, or using paper or stuff like that to blow yourself. To know that okay, when you're out there to get the AC, bro, you know that okay, the electricity bill is gonna be high and all these stuff and all this. But there's a reason you're going to appreciate getting the AC. You're going to appreciate getting the AC to say, yo, well, these are the days we usually have, bro. And what will happen is that that's the struggle to actually get the first AC and be like, okay, yo, remember the days we usually have to out there to use fan and all these stuff. Don't always have the AC. No, it's gonna be like, yo, it's gonna be like a couple years later. Those will be like spooky stories, bro. It'll be like, yo, you remember the days, bro? You usually use fan. I going to a home and that would be like in the museum and be like, yo, remember the days where you usually use fan and paper, bro? And it'd be like, yo, that would be like the Jamaican coming after 24 years and be like, oh my god, you guys out there so using AC, bro? You guys using the AC, bro? And I'm like, oh my god, bro. Like, legit, work our ass, work everything that to get this AC, bro. And you have a person that's flying in to tell me that we out there so using the AC, bro. The person that tell me, bro. Like, and it's like, but what happens is that you won't appreciate the AC if you didn't remember the days you out there. So usually use the fan, and I'm using your hands to blow. And same thing with not. And the fourth year I talk about the hurricane and stuff like that. Actually, I talk about the family out there so ending with the AC and stuff like that. Grandma ending with the AC coming from far. So boom, I'm out there so using the lantern, the lamp, or no, the lamp and all these stuff to actually because I still have light outages and all these stuff. So using the lamp and stuff like that. So when me going out now and see me all of a sudden could afford to go to, for example, solar or all these stuff. Or not even so. Just able to actually go and first be able to actually afford electric bill and stuff like that. Afford all these stuff. That's the first thing. So the first thing that's actually upgrade. First thing is actually able to afford the stuff that you're going to be cur- try to get as a luxury. You're supposed to be able to afford the electric bill and stuff like that before me out there going out and complain about my god, why the hell this is this and all this. I sure what it is to be out to actually be out to be able to afford it and be like, oh yeah, yeah. When we're able to afford it now, then I can be like, oh my god, why the hell is company out there so every second out there so every second out there so and the light is going away. That's the reason why you hear me working all those times to actually get some water. Be like, okay, why the hell we out there so not getting water for the whole year and stuff like that? Because what happens, I have water storage. That's the thing I report here. stuff like that. Water storage. We don't have consistent water now. We have water storage. So boom. And this, I guess, this is gonna relate to some episode we talk about. You're growing up and you have this riding a bicycle, and you have tricycle, we have the tricycle and stuff like that. We have things like crutches and stuff like that. We'll be like, okay, these are the things that use to patch up a problem. These are the stuff that we use to actually patch up a problem, and when we actually solve, understand it, get the full solution to the problem, we actually give away those stuff. And it's like, okay, we out with the all and we in with it, we out with the all. So like boom, you see, you go to a very futuristic home in Jamaica. What is a futurist? What would be a futurist home? You go to their home there and you don't see no tanks. You don't see no tanks or nothing like that. You don't even see lights and stuff like that. It's like legit a home, bro. You actually go in and be like, you don't even think about like going away. You don't think about the fact that we out there so losing water and all these stuff. That's a futuristic home in G. So what happens is that because I'm talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and stuff like that, all these stuff are that would be a futuristic home. Maybe like no, the basic needs aren't so much that we even have the basic stuff that you use that people complain about. We don't even complain about. We'll be like, yo, we don't come and the thing about it is that you have to acknowledge these stuff. That thing now, you're out there so trying to be in the future. You have to acknowledge the facts that yo, these are what we used to have. To say yo, when we don't have it, yo. That thing we used to have these stuff. So we used to let's say yo, we used to use every day out there to be stored tank and all these store water in tanks and all these. And all these things are important to you. And we actually get rid of them and get rid of them, what happens is that you when you get rid of them, you actually can talk about land and all. You increase the land space to do other stuff with it. You actually can do other stuff with the land now. And be like, okay, and stuff like that. Or knowing or the fact is you actually know that yo, this is a crutch to actually hold this level. So sometimes like you're not out there so going and stay out there, I'm gonna start get rid of tank or stuff like that. Be like, okay, me I move the tank to a different location to say yeah. This level of the home now, we don't even worry about those problems. We out there so going out and be like, yo, but those level of stuff we don't have again. And it's like, oh boom, boom banquet. And it's like but with this with everything, I have acknowledged and say, yeah, this is the reason why we have this. This was the reason why we are the way we are. Don't neglect the as some origin and stuff like that. To say, yo, these are the reasons why we have these things. Yo, these are the things that sustain us in the fourth or fifth year of home ownership. To say, yo, when we actually going out and you don't see the home with those stuff anymore. You actually go out and don't see the home with those stuff anymore. You be like, yeah, you know that we pass a level. We pass a level. And what happens is that the the whole the whole community or stuff like that or whatever, they see the upgrade. They see what it was like before those days. So that okay, yeah, when we actually going out and we pass those days now, it becomes is yeah, we pass those days. You'll be like, yeah, we're fine. We're coming out using the knife and fork and all these stuff and all these fancy. And we're like, okay, yeah. And you see you always speaking English, speaking English, And what happened? And the reason why it's important, as back in days growing up, I usually use my family usually speak some foreign language, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm just out there speaking the foreign language, and I'm out there not knowing what they are saying, and all this what they're speaking their foreign language and stuff like that. So what means that that's a new level that's a new level of living longer and stuff like that. Like, yo, oh, my grandmother passed away, it was 90 and stuff. That's a new level where it be like, oh, but they were out there so hiding stuff from me. Where it be like, okay, they were out there so not give I was hiding stuff from me. So all this so they out there so doing stuff that at the time they say, okay, yeah. You ain't supposed to know these stuff, so they're speaking the fancy language. Or they just speaking the fancy language and be like, yeah, we ain't supposed to know about these stuff. So what happens that this is a new level of saying, oh, this is a new level of richness to say, yo, we're not supposed to know. I accept the fact that, okay, we don't know these stuff to know that, okay, when you actually make me know these stuff, I actually reach the level to say, yeah, we're new level unlocked in the family now. And be like, okay, now they actually make me want to know these stuff now. Now you're there to see me speaking those fancy language now. I see me out there, so be like, oh my god, yes. You out there see me speaking that fancy language and stuff like that. So these are new level of stuff where be like, yo, those fundamental days in the home, those fundamental days, these are simple things in the home and be like, okay, these poor days, these fundamental poor days where be like, okay, when we throw it, what that thing in the fun that thing about these levels. When you see we out there throw out a garbage, you know, out there throwing out quality garbage in the bro. Like that's the thing when actually fundamental. So we're like people out there, so it's like yo, our trash. That thing about like the fundamental. Our trash is becomes everybody's treasure in the bro. Our trash. They talk about one man trash becomes somebody else's treasure, bro. Our trash now becomes treasure because it's focus on quality. Focus on quality versus quantity and these certain stuff there's a focus on quality versus quantity and it's like okay yeah now we are just actually reaching the new level so boom the family is a standard now so sometimes you ask me there every time they come down they see me out there to live in a primitive life and that's how they always say bro. Every time I come in and they only see me this primitive life I'm like oh my god bro you're out there to live in this primitive life every day, you know, like every day is you know just living this primitive life. But you have to actually come in and see the primitive life so that we don't have to go back and live in the futuristic life. We'll be like, yeah, yeah, now we know why we're out there so working. Now we know why we're out there so working, bro. 'Cause we're out there to see this primitive life and be like, oh my god, bro. Look at the guy out there so using the machete, bro. Look at the guys out there. Look at the guy out there. The university degree, bro. Out there so using the machete, bro. Can't you buy that, bro? Can't you buy a lot more? I was like, yo, you can't buy a lot more, bro. I was like, yo, can't buy it yet, brother. But all we know is that when we actually buy it, we appreciate it. So, what happens that it's gonna take me some time to actually learn how to use a lawnmower or a walker or all these. It actually take us time to actually go out and learn how to use those. When we actually go out and buy it now, that's the thing where we be like, okay, when we actually learn how to use it now, we actually use it well, bro. But that's the thing about the fourth year of home ownership or stuff like that. Yeah, I guess you actually out there so seeing that you're appreciating the utensils. So you're out there so appreciating the utensils and be like, okay, we this is used for this reason and this and when we actually go when it act and this is used for this reason. That's the first thing I acknowledge. Oh, okay, this is used for this reason. Now we actually go out and say, yeah, because this is used for this reason now. We out there we go out and say, yeah. Um we when this gets old, there are things we can actually purchase to actually make it last longer. Okay, so we can buy a knife sharpener and these stuff or a file or stuff like that to actually make it last longer. Stuff like that. But what happens is that sometimes I actually reach a level I'm like, okay, we use this to make so much money to save that we can actually buy the better version of stuff. So okay, upgrading from a knife to the can cutter, to the can to the can cutter, and all those. Eventually, we don't even use the knife anymore, and all these stuff. All we seriously using is the can cutter, and all these stuff. Because what happens that remember those foundational days without the can cutter, or without the can cutter, so know that when we actually upgrade to these stuff, we out there's upgrading quality, and we know the proper use of storing a can, proper use of storing a can, and all these things. Yeah, so that's the thing where we like, okay, we always learn the proper use of storing a can and all these things. So when we actually do that now, when we actually do that now, I'll be like, yeah, we out there to be like, using the can correctly. We out there to use it and then using the can opener. All of a sudden now, you're gonna see in our trash a knife and a file. And you're gonna see the average person be like, bro, this person out there throw out a knife and a file and a knife shop, man. It's like, is this person crazy, bro? Is this person crazy? And it's like, no, we wasn't crazy. What happened was that we reached a level of quality of appreciating stuff like, bro. Nowadays, so see we go to the shop, bro, we don't even see we buy certain goods anymore, bro. See we also buy canned goods. So we don't even use the knife anymore, bro. We don't even use the knife anymore in the kitchen, bro. So it's like, oh my god, bro. That's quality. That's quality. You come into the country. You come into the country, you see the man using knife and fork. Bro. You only see the country, you see the man out there using knife and fork, bro. It's like, what in the world happened, bro? It's like what happens that we actually sit down and learn how the hell to use a knife. And then we upgrade and get a knife cutter. Half a say you don't see we use knife anymore. And what happens that yeah, so that's the thing where be like, yo, sometimes what happens is that, yo, they see me speaking that Jamaican pathos, bro. What happens is that no, because me upgrade and speaking that fluent English, all of a sudden you see a dumb person or able to actually um speak pathos, bro. It's like, what happened, bro? You see me actually went from speaking no patois to straight patois to English. So it's like, yo, there's actually something there. There's actually something there to actually that actually changes. And you see me went from zero to hero. You actually see me went from zero to hero. So there's actually something there that actually say, yo, we actually move from somewhere. We actually move from somewhere. You mean me? You see how we move from zero to hero. So actually see me move from somewhere. So like the level is actually quantifying what is the level that we actually out there. And that's the thing now. Maybe a comparison to the thief of joy. Because what will happen is that at my 11, they see me feeling high and mighty and all this stuff. And as I'm speaking, many people right now out there looking down on me and be like, oh my God, he's. But at the same time, there are people out there so at the same time looking up to me and be like, oh my God, he's out there living in the future, bro. You're out there living in the future and all these stuff. I wish I have these privileges and all these stuff. So the only thing you have to actually, have to actually do is actually try to be the one that always looking down on me and then boom bang and all these stuff. So that's basically it. Where be like, yo, this episode about the kitchen utensils where be like, okay, learning what the kitchen utensils are and then actually knowing when they get old, how to properly when they get old, how to properly maintain them, and then actually we know when to actually throw them away. What happening now is that when you actually go out and replace it, the new utensils actually last so long that basically maybe a whole generation. When you go the listener actually go out and replace it, the host would actually be dead and be like, oh yeah, yeah. And you see this episode and be like, oh my god, this is what he did actually did back in the day. Oh, he actually got that. So that's the thing. But what happens is that some of this stuff you have to actually reach a new level. You have to actually appreciate the stuff to say yeah, to know when it gets old, to know when it gets old, and it's like okay, when it gets old, and then we get rid of these stuff, is we actually use the product to its full potential. And sometimes we even get rid of the product because we actually know it to its full potential and stuff like that. When we actually get rid of the product, sometimes we get rid of it so quickly that you you naturally we naturally out there so progressing. You know, it's naturally out there so progressing to a different level quickly. Quickly like we always naturally out there so able to see the new level quickly and understand like okay yeah this is what this is what it took to actually reach this level and be like okay yeah now we but but what happens is that you have to actually be like yo this is what we um um what this basically episode is saying that the both understand these things are obvious to someone say, okay, yeah, these things are obvious, but it's important to actually reinforce it to say, yo, when we actually do these stuff and it becomes natural, it becomes natural to us and be like, okay, same thing with like cars, or talk about speaking in cars and all this stuff. The important we going to the classes and all this stuff. Don't going out and take your time to learn the classes and stuff like that. When you're actually going out and all these things, you can tell the people them you can tell the people why you're out there so doing this. So this is a simple difference. Nothing did change. The only thing that changes that I'm out there. So I can tell you why you see me out there so doing this. So it's like okay, that's the only thing that's different. I can go there and tell you that this is the reason why I'm doing this. And it's like oh, and what happens that you simply get better at able to do that, then sometimes certain things even need to be said anymore. Certain things even need to be said anymore. People out there just get in the blind trust to say, yeah. We always are doing these stuff. Whenever yeah, you always are doing these stuff. But but even with others are doing these stuff, you have to able to you have to sit down and actually quantify your stuff as well. And actually be like, okay, you have to um do this stuff. So these stuff that I'm saying no, you can listen to this episode. I'm gonna maybe do another episode about kitchen and bathroom or bedroom or at the same time you can actually listen to these stuff and be like, okay, yeah. You don't even have to listen to the future episode about bathroom and all these stuff. You know, it's naturally doing that. Because that's the simple concept I'm going to be using to actually go through the different homes and all this stuff. But knowing that those simple stuff is going to be like when you actually go into a home, you're gonna see it in the future. You're gonna be like, oh wow, this is actually a very futuristic home. And it's like, oh, it's this simple concept that we actually use that actually does change it from a trash to something, right? I was like, okay. Mhm. So that's basically it for this episode. Thank you for listening. I look forward for the next episode.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page, Reframing Mindset Podcast, or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.